I'm gonna be going over and ranking Phase 2 of the MCU, including all the films and short films. If you haven't seen my Phase 1 video, go ahead and check that one out before you see this one. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and let's get straight to it, starting with Iron Man 3. We begin at a New Year's Eve party in the year 1999. As Tony's leaving to, quote, go to town on a scientist, we meet Aldrich Killian, who tries to propose his company AIM, to which Tony tells him to wait for him on the roof, but he never comes. Tony reviews Maya's work, known as Extremis, which can heal severe injuries such as amputated limbs. The plant used for the research explodes, and it's revealed that there's a glitch in Maya's research that she's trying to fix. Fast forward, we see Tony working on his new Mark 42 armor. Bro had no reason to oral farm this hard with the suit up. We then cut to Mandarin yapping about how he's not a terrorist, followed by the most terrorist looking attacks that we've ever seen. This prompts the president to deploy the War Machine, now known as Iron Patriot, to solve this matter. While Rhodey and Tony are talking, Tony has an anxiety attack due to his PTSD from the New York battle. We see the new Chad version of Aldrich meet up with Pepper Potts. Bro had a glow up and tried to steal Tony's girl. He shows Pepper how he fixed his health with Extremis. Pepper rejects Killian's proposal of AIM. Tony becomes jealous of their interaction, but the two reconcile. Tony has a nightmare. Mark 42 almost kills Pepper, but gets stopped in time. Happy investigates one of Killian's men at a theater and then gets launched into a window. And then one of Killian's men blows up, destroying the theater and leaving Happy seriously injured. Tony investigates the bombing and finds a similar one in Rose Hill, Tennessee, and then Maya shows up to his house. Tony threatens the Mandarin and tells him to pull up and drops his address. The Mandarin pulls up and removes his address. Pepper saves Maya. Tony takes out two attack choppers, but is too late and gets trapped underwater. Jarvis pulls Tony out and crash lands in Tennessee, as Jarvis created a flight path to Rose Hill before the attack. Tony's suit dies, leaving him abandoned in the middle of nowhere. Tony meets a kid named Harley and learns that he's presumed dead. Pepper finds out that Tony's okay, and Maya reveals that Killian's working with the Mandarin. Tony uses his death to investigate the Tennessee bombing with the help of Harley. He gets attacked while trying to get information, but escapes and blows up the woman trying to kill him, as well as the guy from the earlier explosion. The Mandarin kills someone on live TV, and Rhodey goes after him. Tony hacks into AIM's database and finds out that AIM is using disabled veterans for Project Extremis, which causes them to have the explosive side effects similar to the agents from earlier. Killian kidnaps Pepper, Maya does a heel turn, Rhodey gets attacked, and Tony finds the Mandarin's location. He infiltrates the compound and learns that the Mandarin is an actor named Trevor Slattery, who was approached by AIM and used as propaganda, as well as a cover-up for the explosions. Tony gets knocked out and captured by Aldrich, who injects Pepper with Extremis. Maya does a face turn, but she's immediately shot dead. AIM takes Rhodey's suit, Tony and Rhodey escape, and they use Trevor to go after Killian. Killian kidnaps the president and blows up the plane. Tony saves the crew, and him and Rhodey board the boat where Pepper and the president are being held. Bro thinks he's Spider-Man. After being surrounded, Tony deploys all his suits and they start clearing people out. Tony goes to save Pepper, while Rhodey goes to save the president. Rhodey gets his suit back, and Tony fails to catch Pepper. That's the second Tony that's never had the makings of a varsity athlete. Tony and Killian fight using multiple suits during the battle. Tony uses the Mark 42 armor to trap Killian and self-destruct. He somehow survives, and then Pepper ups the pole on his ass, blows him up, and saves Tony. Tony destroys his suits, Trevor gets arrested, Tony cures Pepper and removes a shrapnel in his chest from the first film. Happy wakes up from his coma, Harley's gifted a lab from Tony, and then Tony throws his reactor in the ocean. In the end credits, we see that Tony was narrating the film to Bruce Banner the whole time, who fell asleep as Tony was venting to him, to which Tony starts yapping again when he wakes up. The end. This film was really weird to me. I think it suffered a lot due to the director change, and the story felt extremely out of place. Let's start with the good though. The comedy was top tier as always. I also like how creative Tony gets with the suits, like when he pulled himself out of the water, as well as when he saved the flight crew. Now, I like Tony's character arc, but it felt a bit off. I like the idea of him having PTSD and how he basically has to be Iron Man without the suit. but it felt very inconsistent the way they showed it in this film. He's barely in the suit, and when he is, it just gets broken up by the dumbest shit. Sure, it shows that his obsession with making suits to cope with his trauma was ruining his life, which made his suits flawed when he used them, but I mean, they could have at least gave us a few more action scenes and then maybe ease into that arc as time went on. Worst of all, the villains were straight ass. Completely nerfed the Mandarin and made the main villain a lame ass dork that can melt things. Like, I don't need a fucking microwave to be the main villain of an Iron Man film. The action scenes were mid in comparison to the first two films, and the whole Rhodey and Tony trying to save Pepper and the president thing just felt like a buddy cop scene from an 80s film. Overall, it just felt like they were trying to wrap up Tony's character arc for no reason. I don't know if Marvel was playing it safe because of RDJ's contract ending, but that could be a reason why this felt so odd. I'm gonna give this film a C. There were some cool moments here and there, but it felt more like a TV tie-in special than an actual film. Next, we have Thor: The Dark World. Odin tells the story of Malekith the Dark Elf, who tried to use the ether to destroy the realms. Odin's dad defeats the elves, Malekith gets away, and the ether gets buried in an unknown area. Fast forward to modern day Asgard, where Loki's sentenced to life in prison for his crimes in the first film. Thor and his buddies battle an army in Vanaheim. He chins this rock looking dude, and they win the battle. Thor returns to Asgard, mogs the entire 9 realms, and then goes to celebrate his victory. We go to London and see Jane Foster on a date, which ends after Darcy shows her a signal that she picked up similar to the one in New Mexico. She really flaked on the most nonchalant NPC in the MCU. Bro is chill as hell. Anyways, we see Dr. Selvig's completely lost the plot. He's wandering around butt-ass naked, just skitzed out of his mind. Jane and her crew go to a warehouse filled with portals and other abnormalities. Jane sees a dark, mysterious hallway that's picking up frequencies on her device. And like anyone else would in this situation, she goes as close as she can to it. She gets sucked in and gets teleported to the ether. The ether goes inside Jane and she passes out, to which Malekith is alerted. Thor chops it up with Heimdall and learns that Jane has disappeared. Jane wakes up on Earth, Thor shows up, Jane hits him with a 2-piece combo, and then Thor explains where he's been. The police try to hit Jane with the good old "stop resisting," but then the ether sends them all flying. Thor takes Jane to Asgard, Malekith goes to Svartalfheim, and we learn that Jane can't survive with the amount of energy in her body from the ether. Odin sees Jane's symptoms and then drops the entire lore of the Dark Elves to Thor and Jane. Malekith slimes out his day one and then turns him evil, and then he infiltrates Asgard under the guise of a prisoner. Thor and Jane kiss, he introduces her to his mother, and then Algrim frees all the prisoners except for Loki. A battle ensues, Thor fights in the dungeon, Heimdall destroys one of the elf ships, but it's too late. The Dark Elves arrive, destroying everything in their path. Heimdall tries to shield the palace, but Algrim puts it down, which allows the Dark Elves to damage it. A battle ensues, Malekith and Frigga fight over Jane's fine ass, and then Algrim kills Frigga once he realizes that Jane's an illusion. Thor comes in, burns Malekith's face, but it's too late to catch him. I'm sorry bro, but this shit had me dying. The Dark Elves escape, a funeral is held for Frigga and the other fallen Asgardians. We see Dr. Selvig talking about the 9 realms in a psych ward, and we get a little Stan Lee cameo along with it. Jane gets thrown in prison, Odin and Thor argue, and then Thor plans to move Jane out of Asgard with the help of Loki. The group take the ship lodged into the palace and escape, landing in Svartalfheim. Darcy finds Selvig, Malekith finds Jane, Loki betrays Thor and cuts his hand off, and then Malekith takes the ether from Jane. We find out that Loki didn't betray Thor, and instead faked it to trick Malekith. Thor tries to destroy the ether, but it survives and goes inside Malekith. Thor saves Loki and fights Algrim, Malekith gets away, and then Algrim starts beating the brakes off of Thor. Loki stabs Algrim, Algrim stabs Loki, Loki blows Algrim up, and then he dies. Thor and Jane go into a cave, Jane somehow gets cell service from another fucking realm. They find the portal from earlier and go back to London, and we see that Loki is still alive, disguised as a guard. The elf ship goes to Greenwich, where Malekith plans to destroy the 9 realms all at once. Thor and Malekith fight, while Jane and the team try to build a portal. Thor and Malekith go through a bunch of portals. The Air Force tries to hit the ship but end up just bombing like fucking Mongolheim for no reason. Thor takes a train back to the battle. Malekith starts destroying the realms, and then Thor defeats him with these javelin things. Malekith gets crushed by his ship. The city's saved in perfect condition, and then Thor returns to Asgard. Thor gives up his spot as king, and we find out that Odin was AI the whole time as he transforms into Loki. In the post credits, we see the Collector, who's given the ether by Thor's pals, and then we also get Thor reuniting with Jane. Now let's get this straight. This movie is not good, but it's not as bad as Love and Thunder in my opinion. There's just nothing that really happened in this film. To start, the visuals are beautiful, especially in the different realms of the film. There were some really nice scenes, such as the funeral, as well as the dogfight when the elves invaded. And similar to the first film, the costume design was insane. And I honestly think that this is one of Thor's best looks in the MCU. Now, a lot of problems that I have with this film have to do with the direction itself. You got all these crazy settings, and there's so much potential with exploring the 9 realms, just for half the film to take place in London. Similar to Iron Man 3, the main villain is just weak as hell. At least in this film, he looks a little bit more menacing, but still, there just wasn't anything special about him. The comedy bits didn't hit at all, and the end battle just felt underwhelming. If Unseasoned Chicken was a film, this is the end result. I'm gonna give this one a D, just not memorable at all. We move on to Captain America the Winter Soldier. Cap and Black Widow are sent on a mission to rescue hostages on a boat owned by S.H.I.E.L.D. Cap gets on the boat and straight up fucks everyone up. He's Spartan kicking dudes off the ship, rearranging people's bone structures. The man has caught at least 5 bodies in the span of 2 minutes. Black Widow comes through switching everyone down, and they save the hostages. Cap runs into fucking GSP out of all people. They had Steve going up against the UFC GOAT, 2-time champ, top 3 Canadian of all time in my opinion. They start hooping, and then Cap hits him with this Karate Kid ass kick and knocks him out. Black Widow starts stealing data from S.H.I.E.L.D., and to prevent that from happening to you, today's sponsor is I'm just playing, I don't have any sponsors yet, but anyways, GSP throws a grenade at the two and gets away. Back at S.H.I.E.L.D. HQ, it's revealed that Fury sent Black Widow on a separate mission to extract the data, and he tells Cap about Project Insight. The project plans to use 3 helicarriers linked to satellites to combat terrorism, which Steve thinks is a bad idea. Steve goes to a Captain America museum, and it's revealed that Peggy got married to one of the soldiers that Steve saved. I straight up fell down to my knees when I heard this shit. No wonder Cap was murking everyone on the ship. He meets an older Peggy who is now suffering from dementia, and they have a little moment together. Fury tries to open the files from the ship, but it's suspiciously denied access, causing him to delay Project Insight. Fury gets hit by a bunch of cars disguised as cops and gets pinned down, but he shoots his way out and then gets chased. This dude right here got stormtrooper levels of aim. Like, how do you not even hit him once? Fury runs him over and escapes again, and then gets blown up by this dude, certified menace to society. Fury escapes, Steve starts flirting with his neighbor, and she tells him that he left his radio on at his place, which causes Steve to get suspicious. Steve goes in and finds Fury, who reveals that they're being watched and that S.H.I.E.L.D. is compromised. Fury gets shot and gives Steve the USB from earlier. The shooter gets away from Steve, Fury dies, Black Widow questions Steve and gets called to S.H.I.E.L.D. HQ, but he hides the USB before going. Steve's now in a giant Among Us game with S.H.I.E.L.D., and he doesn't trust anyone around him. He meets the guy from earlier who questions why Fury was in his apartment. Steve, who doesn't trust him, gives him nothing. Steve gets in an elevator, and then more and more people start coming in, and then all hell breaks loose. Cap clears out the elevator and then gets pinned down by more troops, to which he escapes by jumping out. Steve takes out an entire jet on his own and escapes, and is then labeled a fugitive by S.H.I.E.L.D. Steve goes back for the USB, but Black Widow gets to it first. She reveals that the one who killed Fury is known as the Winter Soldier, and that she ran into him a few years back. The council reactivates Project Insight. Cap and Black Widow find out where the USB was programmed. S.H.I.E.L.D. show up to catch the two, but they escape unnoticed. They get to the camp from the first film and enter an old S.H.I.E.L.D. office, where they find a hidden elevator leading to an old lab. They insert the USB, and we see Arnim Zola from the first film, who had his mind transferred to a computer after he died. He reveals that Hydra infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. to make a new world order, which then causes S.H.I.E.L.D. to launch a missile at the base. Cap and Black Widow escape. Pierce is is revealed to be working with the Winter Soldier, and then he booms his maid to leave no witnesses. Cap and Black Widow hide out at Sam's house and then capture Jasper Sitwell to get info on Zola's algorithm, which they learned was used to detect and eliminate threats through Project Insight. On the way back to HQ, the Winter Soldier grabs Sitwell and yeets him out the window. A chase ensues, the three escape the car before it flips over, and then the Winter Soldier straight up nukes Steve and sends him flying off the highway. A gunfight ensues, Black Widow escapes, Hydra Swiss cheeses everyone in the bus, and then Cap goes after the Winter Soldier. Black Widow gets shot, Steve saves her from getting killed, and the two fight a back and forth battle, to which it's revealed that Bucky was the one under the mask. Bucky escapes, S.H.I.E.L.D. capture the group, and then Maria Hill helps them escape. Fury's revealed to be alive, we learn how Bucky survived, and then we get a flashback to Steve and Bucky in the 40s. The group must now prevent the helicarrier from killing everyone by using chips to hack them. Cap breaks in and exposes Pierce, we get a good old Mexican standoff, and the helicarriers are launched. Cap and Falcon fight the Hydra agents, Black Widow gets to Pierce, Falcon starts aura farming, dual wield, switch him down. What did he do to deserve all that? Is 1 or 2 not enough? Falcon gets chased by a jet, Cap beats the fuck out of everyone for the 10th time in the film, and they're able to hack 2 out of the 3 helicarriers. Bucky shows up. Yeah, go ahead, bro. You got it. Whatever you're looking for, I'll help you find that shit. Just leave me alone, please. Black Widow drops the Epstein files. Cap and Falcon fight Bucky on the last ship, and Falcon gets kicked off. Cap and Bucky square off, and we get Duel of the Fates Marvel Edition. Cap chokes Bucky out. Sam and Rumlow duke it out. Bucky shoots Cap a bunch of times, and before Hydra launches their attack on the public, Cap gets the last helicarrier down. Now, the ships enter a Mexican standoff, and they start shooting each other. Fury puts Pierce on a t-shirt, the helicarriers crash into S.H.I.E.L.D. HQ, Sam escapes to safety, and Cap tries to save Bucky. Bucky beats the piss out of Steve, and then Steve snaps Bucky out of his brainwashed state before he falls into the water. Bucky saves Cap, we get an info dump of everything that happened while Cap was in a coma, and then Fury burns all the evidence that could prove that he's still alive. Black Widow hands Cap a file on Bucky's past, and him and Sam go looking for Bucky. In the end credit scene, we see Baron Strucker in a Hydra base, where we see Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch held in cages. We also catch Bucky going to the Captain America Museum and learning about his past. I'm not ashamed to admit this, I've never seen this film prior to making this video, and my god, I missed out, because this might just be in my top 3 MCU films of all time. The action scenes were sick, and the fight choreography is the best I've seen in the entire franchise. I love the more grounded feel to this film, and there was just non-stop action, zero filler, just insane pacing from start to finish, not a single minute wasted. This was not just a great superhero film, but a great spy film, a great action film, just a great film that's not boxed into any genre. The characters were amazing, Falcon's combat and flying is sick, Bucky is a straight demon, Black Widow's fine as fuck. What more can you ask for in a film? Now, but all jokes aside, this is genuinely one of the best superhero films I've ever seen, so it's going in the S tier without a doubt. Next up, we have Guardians of the Galaxy. Peter Quill's mom passes away from cancer. He runs out and gets abducted by a spaceship. Fast forward 26 years later, we see Peter trying to get an orb. A ship lands and tries to steal the orb, but Peter deals with them and escapes. Yondu calls Peter and gets mad at him for stealing the orb on his own, and it's revealed that the Ravagers took Peter from Earth. They put a bounty on Peter. We see Ronan the Accuser bonk this dude on the head. I'm sure he's alright, just a little scratch. And then it's revealed that Ronan promised the orb to Thanos, and in exchange, Thanos would destroy the Xandarians, who have been in conflict with Ronan's people, the Kree. Gamora and Nebula go to Xandar to retrieve the orb. We meet Rocket Raccoon and Groot, and the two go to retrieve the bounty on Peter's head. Peter tries to give the orb to the broker, but he refuses to accept it once he learns that Ronan is also after it. Gamora steals the orb and tries to run off, to which Rocket and Groot intervene. After the four go back and forth, they all get arrested and sent to the kiln. Gamora reveals that she was going to betray Ronan and keep the orb for herself. The prisoners are hostile with Gamora due to her ties with Thanos and Ronan, as they've killed millions across the universe. Before they could kill Gamora, we meet Drax the Destroyer, whose family was also killed by Ronan. Peter saves Gamora's life by allowing Drax a chance to kill Ronan. The group plan an escape. Ronan gets summoned in front of Thanos, and then he kills the other from the first Avengers. Thanos warns Ronan that if he doesn't get the orb, he will bathe the stairways in his blood. Yeah, I'm getting that orb by any means if I hear that shit. Groot alerts the entire prison on accident, causing their plan to become difficult. Drax helps Groot and Rocket, while Peter and Gamora get the things they need to escape. Rocket turns off the gravity in the prison, and the group escape. The group go to nowhere to meet Gamora's buyer. Drax and Rocket go drinking and gambling. We learn that Thanos killed Gamora's people and tortured her, and the group starts fighting. Rocket starts trauma dumping and almost dumps the clip on Drax, and then the buyer calls him in. The buyer, aka the Collector, reveals the orb is an Infinity Stone. One of the Collector's servants touches the stone and blows up the entire place. All the while, Drax calls Ronan to challenge him to a fight. Peter, Gamora, and Rocket get chased by Nebula, while Drax and Ronan fight. Ronan lil bros Drax, Nebula blows up Gamora's ship, and the orb gets taken away. Peter saves Gamora with the help of Yondu, Groot saves Drax, and Ronan flakes the deal with Thanos and keeps the orb for himself. Yondu beats up Quill. He makes a deal with Yondu to get the orb. Rocket, Groot, and Drax almost blow up the ship to save Peter and Gamora, and the group create a new plan to go after Ronan. Ronan goes to destroy Xandar, the Ravagers go after Ronan, Yondu's ship gets destroyed, and the Nova Corps arrive as backup. The group reaches the ship, the Nova Corps starts locking in, Nebula gets boomed by Drax, Yondu slimes out the entire army. Bro might have the most overpowered weapon in the MCU other than the Infinity Stones. Gamora and Nebula fight, the Kree start kamikazing the city, and the rest of the group fight the troops on the ship. Rocket starts playing IRL Galaga, Drax rips Korath's head open, Groot starts impaling dudes left and right, and Ronan destroys the Nova Shield. Gamora defeats Nebula, but she gets away. The Guardians get to Ronan and shoot him with a missile, but he survives. Rocket crashes his ship into Ronan, and Groot sacrifices himself to save the group. Ronan's ship crashes, but he survives. Ronan starts yapping and almost destroys Xandar, but then Peter rage baits him into fighting him. This distracts him enough for Drax and Rocket to shoot another missile at him, which allows Peter to take the stone. Peter, on the edge of death, gets a flashback from his childhood where he refused to take his mother's hand before she died, but this time he takes Gamora's hand. The Guardians each come together and disperse the energy of the Infinity Stones equally. With the power of friendship, the Guardians eviscerate Ronan. Yondu's men surround Peter, and he unwillingly gives up the orb. However, Peter swaps the orb and gives him a decoy. Drax consoles Rocket. The Nova Corps reveal that Peter is only half human and half unknown, which is why he survived the Infinity Stone. The Guardians' records are wiped clean, and they're given a fully repaired ship. Peter reads the last note that his mom gave him at the start of the film, and he opens up a gift that contains a new cassette tape for Peter to listen to. The orb gets put in the hands of the Nova Corps, Groot comes back to life, and the group leaves Xandar in search of a new adventure. In the post-credits, we see Groot vibing out to some Jackson 5, as well as the Collector, Cosmo the Space Dog, and Howard the Duck. This film was a huge risk for Marvel, as for the first time it featured a group that was almost completely unknown to the general public. And let me tell you, it paid off, because we got one of the greatest franchises under Marvel's banner. The world building and the lore from the universe in this film was amazing. Everything felt like it had more story to it that we haven't discovered yet. The visuals were insane, the CGI was top notch, and the amount of detail that they added from the different alien species to the different worlds that we see in this film is the reason why people give it so much acclaim. I love the use of music and how it's tied in as a part of the story, and it was cool how they used Peter's gift from his mom to tease the next film. The comedy is by far the best in the entire MCU, and it's a great way to balance the emotional storytelling that we see in the trilogy. We had an all-star cast that gave us amazing performances. Even the side characters and extras are extremely memorable. This might be a hot take, but I truly believe that Guardians is one of the greatest sci-fi franchises of all time. This one goes in the S tier. It was an amazing addition to the MCU and opened the door for lesser known characters to make it to the big screen. We now arrive at Avengers Age of Ultron. The Avengers raid the Hydra base from Winter Soldier, as that's where Loki's scepter is being held, as well as Wanda and Pietro Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. The twins escape, Hawkeye gets injured, Tony disables the shield and gets inside, Black Widow makes Hulk go soft, pause, and then Cap takes out Baron Strucker. Tony finds the scepter, but Wanda gives him an illusion of the Avengers dying. Tony snaps out of it and takes the scepter, and then the team heads back to Avengers Tower. Hawkeye recovers thanks to the healing cradle, and then Tony and Bruce do some research on the scepter, where they learn that it has a mind of its own. Tony wants to use it as an AI for Project Ultron, which could further protect the world. They get to work as they only have 3 days before Thor takes it back to Asgard. After Tony leaves for a party, Ultron wakes up and attacks Jarvis. We go to the party, Rhodey's being a cornball, Bruce flirts with Black Widow, and then everyone tries to lift Thor's hammer, to which they all fail to move it except for Steve. Ultron shows up, takes control of the Iron Legion, and a battle commences. I have no idea how Rhodey survived this shit, but anyways, Bruce straight up motorboats Black Widow while taking cover. Bro is suffering from success. The Legion steals the scepter, and then Ultron gives a speech about destroying the Avengers before Thor straight up nukes his chin. Ultron escapes through the internet and goes to Sokovia, while the Avengers get mad at Stark for keeping the project a secret. We see Ultron in his new armor, and he recruits the twins to kill the Avengers. It's revealed that a bomb from Stark Industries killed the twins' parents, and then we find out that Ultron killed Baron Strucker. We're introduced to Ulysses Klaue, who was close to Strucker and is an enemy of Wakanda. The twins get to Klaue, Ultron steals his vibranium, and then cuts off his arm. The Avengers show up and a fight ensues. Ultron and Iron Man engage in a firefight, Quicksilver socks the shit out of Cap, and then Wanda uses her mind control on everyone. Hawkeye defeats Wanda with plot armor, and we see everyone start hallucinating. Tony defeats Ultron, but he transfers himself again and gets away. All the while, Wanda starts messing with Hulk's mind. Hulk starts tearing up the city. Not gonna lie, this might be the scariest version of Hulk we've ever seen. I mean, this version would do unspeakable things to Thanos. Tony suits up in the Hulkbuster and tries to talk some sense into Hulk, which backfires horribly. The two fight and destroy the city in the process. Tony slams Hulk down and starts dribbling his head like a basketball, which enrages him even more. Hulk starts beating the shit out of Tony, and then Tony spears him through an unfinished building, causing the biggest OSHA violation in history. Tony knocks Bruce out for good, and the group now must stay out of the public eye due to the defeat they suffered, as well as the public backlash they're receiving. They stay at Hawkeye's home, where we learn that he has a family. Thor goes searching for answers, Ultron finds the doctor that healed Hawkeye earlier on, and forces her to build him a new body. We pan over to Bruce, still suffering from success. Bro really declined a shower with Black Widow. He's gotta be gay at this point, cause ain't no way. She reveals to Bruce that she was sterilized when she was being trained in Russia, and the two plan to run away after this mission. Steve and Tony start arguing, and we see Nick Fury, who convinces the group to stop Ultron. Thor finds Dr. Selvig and goes to the Water of Sight, where he finds the meaning of his vision from earlier. Meanwhile, Ultron's new body is being built with the help of the Infinity Stone and the Scepter. Wanda reads Ultron's mind and learns that Ultron is trying to destroy the human race. The twins switch up on Ultron, and the doctor stops the body from uploading as Wanda subdues her mind control. The Avengers arrive and find Ultron in a truck, and Cap fights to stop the upload from happening. Cap and Ultron then fight in a train, and the twins come to his aid. Black Widow retrieves the cradle, Cap and the twins do damage control for the train, Tony and Bruce get the cradle, and then we learn that Tony wants to put Jarvis in the new body to beat Ultron. Ultron kidnaps Black Widow, but she helps the team to find him. Steve and the twins try to convince Tony and Bruce to stop his experiment, which leads the two factions to a brawl. Thor shows up and hits the cradle with his lightning, causing the body to become sentient, and we see Vision for the first time, who lifts Thor's hammer, proving that he's worthy and is here to help. The Avengers go to Sokovia to evacuate the city and rescue Black Widow. Ultron launches the Legion across the city, Vision locks Ultron into his body to prevent him from escaping, and then the town starts rising, as Ultron intends to use it as a meteor to wipe out humanity. Black Widow turns Hulk on, literally and figuratively, and they climb towards the floating city. Tony tries to get the city back down safely, while the rest of the team faces off against the robot army. Thor and Cap start spamming their hammer shield combo, Wanda starts clearing everyone out, Thor and Ultron start throwing hands, and Tony learns that he has to blow up the city to save the world. Steve vows to save everyone in the city, to which Fury shows up with a helicarrier. War Machine arrives, Vision domes Ultron with Mjolnir, and the Avengers evacuate as many people as they can. The Avengers assemble in the old church where the gravity machine is, and so does Ultron and his drones. The Avengers start putting belt to ass to the drones. I mean, this was like the 2016 Warriors versus a coughing baby. Ultron and Vision go at it, and then Thor and Iron Man join in and start frying his ass. Hulk flings him into space, and the drones retreat. Vision and War Machine take care of the drones. We get our recurring Audi commercial. The Avengers evacuate the remaining civilians. Black Widow and Hulk get absolutely Swiss cheesed by Ultron, who somehow found his way to the Quinjet, and then Quicksilver sacrifices himself to save Hawkeye. Wanda goes full crash out. Hulk gets mildly irritated and grabs Ultron mid-air, slams him back down, and then Wanda shows up and rips his heart out, ending the battle. However, one of the drones gets to the machine and causes the city to fall. With time running out, Tony and Thor have to destroy the city before it destroys the world. Vision saves Wanda, Thor slams Mjolnir into the machine, and the entire city implodes. Hulk, who's still on the Quinjet, gets a call from Black Widow to come back down. However, he hangs up on her, and since the jet is in stealth mode, he is untraceable. Ultron's still up, Vision has a little philosophical moment with him, and then he straight up deep fries bro until he's nothing but ash. We see Tony driving to the new Avengers facility. Yes, we see the whip Audi, don't worry, we know. Thor leaves in fear of the other Infinity Stones being activated, as there have now been 4 stones revealed. We get a moment with Tony and Steve, and we get to see the new starting lineup for the Avengers. In the post-credit scene, we get the iconic Thanos meme, and that's the end. I honestly don't get the hate for this film. I feel like back then, the fans didn't know how good they had it, and I feel like this would have been way more critically acclaimed with today's standards. The opening scene feels like something out of a video game. I mean, you had the Avengers in a search and destroy mission with game chat on. The warehouse scene was insane, especially the battle between Iron Man and Ultron. I also love the new addition of the Hulkbuster, and it made for a cool fight scene with the Hulk. The camera work for the church battle was really good. This and the one in Guardians 3 is up there with my favorite fight sequences in the franchise. The thing that I like most about this film is that it feels like a bunch of routine Avengers missions. Like, it's not the world-ending threats that we see in the other films, but it's probably the only time that we see the Avengers the way they operate in the comics. Like, this felt like the most practical and believable way the team would conduct its operations. Now, moving on to some of my gripes with the film, Black Widow and Hulk romance was kind of weird to me. Like, it just felt so forced. I just feel like they were trying so hard to give Black Widow some type of romance, but it just doesn't work with their backstory. Another thing was that Ultron was a bit underwhelming. Like, he's one of those villains that could have and maybe should have survived the film. I feel like other than Thanos, he should have been the gatekeeper boss in the franchise. Maybe let him stick around for another film and then kill him off, but I still understand why they did it, because then the whole Vision thing wouldn't have held any weight. Is it the weakest Avengers film? Probably. But is it bad by any means? Not at all. I really think that this is one of the most important films in the franchise, as it sets up so many story arcs for the next 2 phases. We had the Civil War storyline building up, then they set up Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther. We had Thanos going out there and getting the stones by himself, which led to Infinity War. I mean, this film was just so influential towards everything moving forward. All in all, I'm gonna give this one an A. We get to our final film in phase 2, which is Ant-Man. In 1989, Hank Pym resigns from S.H.I.E.L.D. after they try to replicate the Pym particle without his permission. Fast forward to the present, Scott Lang gets his ass beat in a goodbye ritual as he's being released from prison. He gets picked up by his former cellmate Luis. Luis tells Scott about a job in the works, but Scott refuses as he's focused on taking care of his daughter Cassie. Scott works at Baskin Robbins, but gets fired after they find out about his past. Luis tries to convince Scott about the job again, but he won't budge. Hank Pym shows up to his former company, and we learn about their plan to use his work to shrink soldiers with the help of the Yellow Jacket suit. However, it's not yet ready, as they've been unsuccessful with keeping their subjects alive. We meet Scott's daughter and his ex-wife, as well as her new husband. Scott can't see Cassie because he's broke and can't pay child support. Darren turns this poor guy into mush and then goes on a date with Hank's daughter. After Scott gets kicked out of his daughter's birthday party, he tells the others that he's up for the job. The gang prepares to crack a safe and steal what's inside. Scott Scott gets inside and opens the safe, but all he finds is, quote, an old motorcycle suit. Unbeknownst to Scott, Hank is watching everything go down, as it was his house that was broken into. Darren keeps trying to shrink things, but ends up killing everything. Scott puts on the costume and accidentally shrinks himself. Scott, who is now stuck in this enlarged world, gets thrown around a bunch of places. He reverts back to normal and gets a call from Hank, to which he gets scared and goes to return the suit. Scott gets arrested, Hank shows up as his lawyer, and it's revealed that Hank set the whole job up to recruit Scott. He escapes with the help of Hank and his aunts, and Hank reveals that he was kicked out of his company after Darren tried to replicate the Pym particle. He makes a deal with Scott, steal the Yellow Jacket suit, and in exchange, he will be able to see his daughter. We get a Scott training arc, and we learn that Hope has had a rough relationship with Hank after her mother died. Hank reveals to Hope that her mother, aka the Wasp, sacrificed herself to save the world from a Soviet missile. Scott's sent on a mission to steal a device from an old warehouse. To Scott's surprise, it's the Avengers headquarters. Falcon shows up and the two face off. Scott goes inside Falcon's wings and disables the suit, allowing him to escape with the device. Darren shows up to tell Hank that he's finally succeeded in shrinking something without killing it. With time running out, Scott recruits his old crew for the job. The group gets in position, Luis drains the water level, and Scott gets inside. Hope turns on the device, Hank gets picked up by the police, but then Dave steals their car to buy them time. Scott and the ants fry the servers and the group disables the grid. However, Darren finds out and hides the suit just in time. Before Darren can kill Hank, Scott expands and escapes. Hank gets shot, Darren escapes, and then Scott goes after Darren. Hank pulls out a fucking tank as his getaway car, and just before the building explodes, the team make it out safe. Before Darren can escape, Scott gets to the helicopter, but Anthony gets shot. Rest in peace, bro was a real soldier. Scott goes inside and starts fighting Darren. Pym Tech blows up, and then Darren puts on the Yellow Jacket suit. The two fight, Darren sets the whole place on fire, and then the two fall out of the sky. The two continue the fade in someone's backyard. Scott swats Darren into a bug zapper, and then gets tased by his daughter's stepdad. Yellow Jacket survives and goes to Cassie's house. Scott escapes and goes to help Cassie, and the two battle again in Cassie's playroom. Scott starts launching shit at Darren and knocks him off the tracks, leading him to get ran over by the train. After a long back and forth, Scott jumps into Darren's suit and destroys it from the inside. However, he shrinks to a subatomic level, which causes him to go into the quantum realm. Scott uses one of the expanding discs to grow bigger and escape. Scott gets his sentence wiped after Paxton helps him out, and then Luis reveals that the Avengers are looking to recruit him after the run-in with Sam from earlier. In the mid-credits scene, we see Hank showing Hope the prototype for a Wasp suit. In the end credits, Sam and Steve find Bucky. Steve says that they can't tell Tony about this, and Sam says that he knows a guy that can help. I enjoyed this film quite a bit, as it was able to differentiate itself from the rest of the films in Phase 2, but it's still connected to the bigger overarching plot. Like, I genuinely forgot I was watching a Marvel film until Scott stole the suit, and what we got was a great mix of both comedy and action throughout the rest of the film. Luis might be the funniest character in the entire MCU, man. Michael Pena killed it in this role, along with the other side characters in the gang. I love how, especially early on in the MCU, the lesser known characters were introduced in a simple yet effective way by not having an overwhelming plot, but still being able to build towards the bigger Avenger level collabs. Like I said earlier, not everything has to be a save the world storyline with an unbeatable supervillain, and this proved to be just that. I love when they use the smaller sets. It was a great way to make the fight scenes more creative, and it allowed for some cool visuals, like how Scott looked like he's in Vietnam running through artillery fire, as well as the battle on the train tracks toward the end of the film. Now, I will say, this film did have a few flaws. It had somewhat of a slow start, and for a film that has less than 2 hours of runtime, every minute counts. I also wish that we got to see Yellow Jacket a bit more. The fight scene at the end was cool, but I felt like there could have been a scene in the quantum realm where they fight before Scott defeats him for good or something similar. Maybe I'm just asking a lot out of a simple side character introduction plot, but yeah, I still thought it was a solid film. I didn't have extremely high expectations, and in the end, I was asking for more. I'm gonna give this film a high B. It's a simple simple idea that was executed well, and it gave us the last piece of the puzzle before moving on to the Phase 3 storylines. Now that we've wrapped up the full-length films in Phase 2, I'm going to be going over the one-shots, which are short films that we got with the DVD releases of some of the films. We'll start off with Agent Carter, which is set after the first Captain America. A year after Steve saves the world, Peggy is now working at the SSR. They find the location of someone named Zodiac and send a few agents to capture him. Peggy, who's now a data analyst, is bored with her job and experiences sexism in her workplace. While alone in the office, Peggy hears her boss's phone ring and picks up. She finds Zodiac's new location and pursues him alone. She arrives at an old warehouse, beats up 2 guards, and then handcuffs a 3rd guard after extracting some information from him. She uses the guard to lure out the rest and then smokes out the last one to clear the area. She goes in and finds a blue vial, but gets captured by a big guard. Before getting choked out by the guard, Peggy grabs a knife from her briefcase and stabs him before knocking him out. Peggy returns to work, where her boss berates her for taking the mission without going through protocol. Her boss tells her that she only got hired because they pitied her. Then, he gets a call from Howard Stark, who forces him to tell Peggy that she's the new head of S.H.I.E.L.D. In the post-credits, we get a scene where Howard and one of the guys from Captain America are looking at a brand new invention, the bikini. I thought this was a cool little side story of what happened after Captain America. It gave us some more character development for Peggy, and then we ended up getting 2 seasons of a show about her after this. I really liked the historical accuracy of what it was like post World War II in the workplace. I love the warehouse scene. Peggy knows how to throw down, especially with how creative she got with using all her different gadgets to her advantage. I was a bit disappointed with how almost a third of it was just credits, but it makes sense. It was a pretty high quality short film. I'm gonna give this one an A. It was short and sweet, and it honestly got me interested in watching the show. Now to our final entry in Phase 2, we have All Hail the King, which takes place after Iron Man 3. A journalist named Jackson Norris interviews Trevor Slattery, who's now in prison. Jackson has a hard time conducting an interview, and Trevor is now a celebrity in the prison. The prisoners protect him from harm, as well as getting him whatever he wants. Jackson tries to interview Trevor one last time, where they go through some of his greatest hits, as well as his upbringing. Jackson says the 10 Rings are mad that he ripped off their old leader, and it's revealed that Jackson works for the 10 Rings. Jackson tries to kill Trevor, but fails, and then a fight ensues with Jackson and one of Trevor's buddies from jail. Jackson kills the guy, Trevor points a gun at him, to which Jackson takes it away from him. It's revealed that the real Mandarin is here to see Trevor and wants to meet him for taking his name. In the mid-credits, we see Justin Hammer from Iron Man 2, who is also in the same prison as Trevor. This one was alright, nothing crazy. It would have been cool to see the real Mandarin, but I'm guessing Marvel didn't plan that far ahead. I'm gonna give this one a C. It was a funny way of showing what happened to some of the villains from the Iron Man films. Now, where does Phase 2 of the MCU rank overall? I think Phase 2 started off really bad, but thankfully it managed to recover by giving us some of the strongest additions to the franchise towards the back half. Overall, I'm gonna give Phase 2 an A, and I think it was crucial in transitioning the MCU to the big storylines that we got moving forward. There you have it. These are my rankings for Phase 2 of the MCU. Comment down below your rankings and what's your favorite film. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I believe we just passed 1,000 subs, and I'm very grateful for all you guys. But anyways, thank you guys so much. Like and subscribe. Go check out some of my other videos in the meantime. Again, thank you, and until next time, goodbye.